I just ventured to Apex, North Carolina to take part in the soft opening of Ionna's first Rechargery in the United States. I was joined by at least 100 other people, some familiar faces, some unfamiliar faces. I got to meet a lot of you in person. Shout out to all my fans who came to say hi. It was awesome talking to you. So in today's video, let's talk about Ionna, their first Rechargery, and my first charging experience there. So if you want to find out more, then stay tuned. Hey everyone, it's the Ioniq guy. If this is your first time here, my name's Corbin. I cover all things Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, EV related. But today we're talking charging because it is one of the most important things about ownership of an EV. And for a long time now, the biggest players in the game here in the US have been Electrify America and EV Go. But unlike those two, we now have a third charging network, and it is backed by the biggest names in automotive. I gotta look at the list because I'm gonna forget if I don't. BMW, General Motors, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Mercedes-Benz, Stellantis, and Toyota. So there's a lot of investment from these big name companies that are now really trying to get these EVs sold, and it's going to really help this network grow, I think, really quickly. So this Rechargery in Apex is the first to have kind of a PR event where people can actually go and charge. Now, even though this is the first, it is currently not the only one. There have been a few that have already been built, and the Apex Rechargery should open to the public in about a week. So if you're traveling through around Christmas, New Year's, you might be able to stop in and get a charge. So let's just talk about the experience. Everybody from Ionna that was there was having a great time. Everyone was super friendly, super nice, awesome people. It's so cool to see so much excitement at a charging station. Most of the time, it's just a lot of people waiting in line, just dreading to have to sit there for an extra 20 to 30 minutes to charge. But this was totally a party. There was good food, coffee. Tom Malogany was making pizzas in the front of his F-150 Lightning. Literally every EV you could possibly think of, they came. There was even a guy in a red ID4 dressed up as Santa Claus. So at this site, there are 10 chargers, 4 are NACS, and 6 are CCS1. Something that I gathered from Seth Cutler's interview with Tom Malogany from State of Charge was that depending on the site, that proportion is either going to be heavy on CCS or heavy on Tesla, depending on kind of what they want to achieve at that site and what cars they think are going to be best served by which connector. So I personally think that more CCS for now versus NACS is the way to go, just because there's really not any other NACS capable cars other than Tesla on the road right now. But he did say in that interview that they are capable of shifting that proportion more towards NACS in the future as CCS kind of starts to go the way of CHAdeMO. But it's a really nice site. There's a nice canopy covering all the chargers. I love the color scheme, the teal and orange color. I mean, I'm a big fan of orange, but it's just such a throwback to Golf of the past. Around the chargers, there were trash cans, there were window washing wands, so that is something that all charging stations desperately need. It's just little things like that that make the experience so much more enjoyable. So when I arrived at the station, they had a couple queues, one for NACS, one for CCS. I pulled in the CCS line. They told me just wait a couple minutes until it's your turn, and then my turn was finally there. I did precondition my battery pack. It was the perfect temperature to receive full charging power. Unfortunately, I was like, I want to say just over 20% state of charge, so it was going to taper off quicker than had I showed up at 10%, but whatever. I tried to time it the best I could, but I overestimated at the previous charger I stopped at. Here's really the only issue I ran into with the chargers. So I backed into my charging spot. Now the problem was the cord was not going to reach because the charger, if I'm looking forward, was on my left side. So I would have to pull the cord around the back of the car. And each stall had its own attendant from Ionna. They were kind of just keeping track of things, getting people's reactions and what they thought and how their experiences were. And the gentleman asked me to move my car a little bit closer to the charger to be able to plug in. So I did have to pull forward and move over. And kind of what I learned is, if you're going to use these Alpitronic chargers, you need to pull in to the charger with the charge port closest to the charger itself. The cable just isn't long enough to get to the opposite side, but it is long enough to get down the side of the car if it's close to the end of the parking space that's from the opposite end of the charger. I think people will learn this in the future, but it did kind of mess things up a little bit here at the first charge. So I backed in, got out, opened up my charge port, And then I went over to the screen. Basically, all you do is choose your handle because each charger has 2 handles. So if you're in 5A, you choose 5A. If you're in 5B, you choose 5B. It's a touch screen, so you pick the charging cable, and then you just tap to pay, and you can plug in, and it should just start going. This is the first time I've used these Alpitronics units, and I will say they are very nice. The screens are bright, clear, lots of nice graphics. They have some kind of information on there trying to just tell kind of novice EV drivers what charging habits you should have and such. They also do graph out your charging curve, which is really nice for the nerds that really like that kind of stuff. You can see voltage, amperage. Just in general, it's all the data you could want from a charging session right in front of you. I heard from a few other people there, and I will kind of echo it. This is more Alpitronic than it is Ionna. Having the screen on only one side of the charger is kind of inconvenient, especially if you're on the other side of the charger. You got to walk around and you might be getting in someone else's way, or you got to stand there and wait a minute or two for them to do what they're doing. It would be really nice to see 2 screens on the charger itself, or just one front mounted screen. Not sure if that's just cost cutting or trying to limit points of failure, but I do think it would be better if it had 2 separate screens. And then I guess if it had that, you wouldn't have to choose which handle on the payment terminal in order to start a charge. So I charged for about 10 minutes. I think I got up to 60% or so. They wanted to keep the flow of people kind of moving, so you couldn't get a full charge. But it worked flawlessly. I had no issues charging. When it was time to end the session, you just walk over, hit stop, hit yes to stop charge, and then you can be on your way. Because there's no app at the moment, you can request to have a receipt emailed to you. I didn't do that, unfortunately. I completely forgot in the moment. But it was a really cheap charging session because Ionna only charged us at this soft opening 5 cents per kilowatt hour. So all in all, the charging experience was A+. Now let's kind of talk about the amenities and just the site in general, because that's kind of the big draw to this facility, is just the fact that it is more than just a charger in a Walmart parking lot. So the site itself is an old gas station that's been converted now into the first Rechargery, which is cool in its own. So when you go in the building, you will go into this kind of smaller room where there's some seating. There's 2 restrooms. Simple had a baby changing station in there if that's what you need to do. There were also 2 vending machines, one full of snacks, one full of drinks. They both had credit card payment terminals, so you could use a credit card tap to pay, or Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever. So from that little room, you move more into like a cafe setting. There is a bar where you can order coffee. And the food here is being supplied by a local restaurateur. I believe I met the owner. It's called Zulia Roll-Ups Bakery. Very nice woman. She was super excited about this new adventure in her life. So the way this thing is kind of working is Ionna is finding local restaurateurs that want to kind of set up shop in their rechargeries to sell their goods. And they will also maintain the sites as well. So the trash cans, the bathrooms, all that kind of stuff, so that Ionna doesn't have to staff somebody there full time to handle all that stuff. It's going to lower their cost, and it will give some other business owner an opportunity to sell more of their product. She had all sorts of stuff like pepperoni bread. I had a guava and cream cheese pastelito, which was delicious. They have a all-in-one kind of coffee machine back there. You can do lattes, cappuccino, espresso. And it's a nice room too. They kept the existing garage doors, so there's tons of natural light coming in. It just feels really airy and large, even though it's a fairly small room. There's a high top table with some bar stools. And then in the corner, there's a retro video game console mounted on the wall with all those old games, Galaga, Frogger, all of those old classic games. That's a cool way to spend your charging session, just going in, getting a coffee, and then playing some Frogger. There's also a couple conference rooms in that area that I guess you will be able to reserve in the Ionna app. To me, I don't know, that seems kind of like wasted space that otherwise could just have like some couches or something. I don't know how many people are going to be stopping and sitting in a conference room. I just feel like if somebody's going to do a business call or something, they'll probably just do it from their car, especially since into the future, most cars are going to start charging quicker. So they're not going to be charging longer, which most cars these days, if you're going from 10 to 80%, should only take about 40 minutes or so. My car only takes 18 minutes. So in 18 minutes, I'm not going to really need to reserve a conference room. The restaurant section is going to have normal business hours. And then at night, when they are closed, the doors into the facility will be able to be opened through the Ionna app on your phone. I don't know if it's going to need to see that you have a charging session going, or you're going to have to be a member or something, but you'll be able to scan at a reader at the door and you'll be able to get in to use the bathrooms and get to the vending machines. I think that's a really smart way to do it. Kind of keeps it feeling safe. Not that Apex, North Carolina felt unsafe in any way, shape, or form, but just gives you a little more sense of just privacy and being able to be doing your thing in the middle of the night and not worrying. In the front of the building, there's a big patio under the existing gas pump station overhang. They do have a bunch of nice picnic tables, so on a nice day, you can sit out there, eat your lunch, eat your pepperoni roll, and enjoy the views of kind of the main street through Apex. It's a very nice little town. If you've never been, definitely pass through sometime. It's a very nice site. I will say, if this is the baseline for future rechargeries, I'm super excited. But it was a fun trip. It was great to meet everybody and talk with people. I did actually get a flat tire at one point. I parked in the Apex Town Hall parking lot behind the building after I charged, and one of my fans came up to me and said, "Hey, Corbin, I parked next to you, and your back left tire was flat." And so I had to spend probably the last 2 hours of the day dealing with that. So everything got cut short, unfortunately. I didn't get as much footage as I wanted to, and I didn't get to talk to as many people as I wanted to because I had to use my Fix-A-Flat on the car and then drive over to Chapel Hill Tire to get my tire replaced because I had to drive back to Boston the next day. But regardless, I'm really glad I went. Stay tuned for my road trip video from Boston to North Carolina, kind of my last hurrah in the 2022 Ioniq 5 before I traded in for the 2025 Ioniq 5. And in that video, I'm going to tell you guys why I have a whole new viewpoint on Hyundai's built-in route planning. So stay tuned for that in the new year. This is my last video I'm making for the year. I've got a few others lined up, but I need to take some R&R before the new year starts. So anyway, guys, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. Check out my store at ioniqguy.com for accessories for your Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis EV. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.